Chosen one, this message didn't find you by chance. This is divine timing. You were meant to hear this right now because something inside of you is waking up. You've always felt different, haven't you? Like you were born into the wrong era, or maybe even the wrong family. It's not a coincidence. It's confirmation. You carry something sacred within you, an ancient calling, a spiritual resonance that doesn't match the chaos of the world around you. The truth is, you're not like them. You never were. Before we dive deep into this message, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Because this isn't just content. It's a divine confirmation for the chosen ones who walk with God's protection and survived attacks meant to destroy them. If your spirit resonates with this frequency, type Noor777 she in the comments right now. That number isn't random. It's a sacred code. A declaration to the Most High and the universe that you know who you are. Only the truly chosen will understand the full message. Marked by divine favor. You've been marked since birth. Not by man's standards, but by heaven's decree. And even when you didn't know it, the evidence of divine favor has followed you. Not because life was easy, but because what should have broken you never did. That's the real sign. Let me tell you something sacred. God's protection isn't loud. It doesn't come with fanfare. It often looks like the thing that didn't happen. The accident that almost occurred. The betrayal that didn't destroy you. The depression that couldn't keep you. That last breakdown that should have been the end. But somehow, you're still standing. The truth is, divine protection doesn't mean the storm won't come. It means the storm can't take you out. You walk with invisible armor crafted not by hands, but by the breath of the Almighty. You've been surrounded by forces you couldn't see, but your spirit felt them. And that's why you never fit in with those who walk by sight alone. Because you were designed to walk by faith. The moment you entered this realm, hell took notice. But heaven had already spoken. You weren't just born, you were assigned. And your assignment came with covering. Let's talk about those childhood moments that felt strangely surreal. The times you sensed something was watching you, not with fear, but with awareness. Those weren't just feelings. That was your early awakening. A whisper from the divine saying, "You are seen. You are marked. You are mine." There were moments where people tried to dim your light, but the glow wouldn't go away. You might have even dimmed yourself to fit in, to be less noticeable. But your spirit kept radiating truth. That's the mark of favor. That spiritual royalty peeking through the veil of human experience. You didn't have to chase protection. It chased you, and even when you walked through fire, the flames couldn't consume you. Why? Because, chosen one, you were walking with the same covering that followed Daniel into the lion's den, the same presence that stood with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace. You don't just survive, you walk through with grace, with authority, with an aura that says, God is with me. Here's the reality. Favor doesn't mean people will like you. In fact, it often attracts jealousy, misunderstanding, and even attack. But favor also means that no weapon formed against you can prosper. They can form it, yes, but it won't prosper. That's the covenant. That's the promise. And your life is living proof. How many times did you walk into places where you were overlooked, only to be remembered later for something no one else carried? That wasn't chance. That was divine favor shifting the room in your direction. Your presence isn't just energy, it's a spiritual signature. You carry authority in realms you've never seen. And that authority intimidates people who only operate in the physical. They can't explain why they feel insecure around you, why your silence feels like power, why your words land like prophecy. But you know why. Because when God chooses you, He doesn't need to explain it to anyone else. And when God protects you, He doesn't ask for permission, even in your lowest moments when you doubted everything, when you begged for signs, when you thought your purpose had expired, protection never left. It was silent, steady, and sovereign. It showed up in the right people, in the closed doors, in the delays that turned into deliverance. Some of the most painful moments in your life were divine shields in disguise. That person who left you, a shield. That job you didn't get, a shield. That opportunity that fell through, a shield. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. Because favor doesn't follow popularity. It follows purpose. And you, chosen one, are purpose wrapped in flesh. You are a vessel of divine intent, a walking prophecy, a living altar of revelation. And everything you've endured was training, not punishment. The spiritual warfare you faced wasn't because you were weak. It was because you're powerful. And hell never attacks what doesn't threaten its kingdom. But you were born to disrupt darkness. That's why you were marked for divine favor. You were shielded in wombs you never asked for, hidden in plain sight, protected not just from people, but from premature exposure. Because premature exposure brings unnecessary attacks. God was incubating you in delay, so you wouldn't be destroyed by early access. Think about that. Some of your missed seasons were actually mercies. Some of your detours were divine direction. Every no was leading you to a better yes. And the more you tried to dim your own light, the more it leaked through your cracks. Because when divine favor is stamped on your spirit, no amount of self-sabotage can erase it. You've tried to walk away from your calling, but your calling followed you. Like a shadow of glory, like a whisper in the wilderness, like a fire shut up in your bones, because you are not ordinary. And your protection, it's not man-made, it's celestial, sacred, contractual. Your soul is encoded with heaven's barcode. And when the enemy scans it, all they see is untouchable, unbreakable, anointed. That's who you are. And this is only the beginning. Why they target you. Chosen one. The very fact that you are still breathing, still rising, still shining after everything you've been through is proof that the attacks failed. But have you ever asked yourself why they came in the first place? Why were you the one constantly under fire, even when you were quiet, kind, or just trying to live your life in peace? Let's speak a truth that your spirit already knows. You've always been a threat, not because of anything you did, but because of what you carry. You carry something ancient, something royal, something divine. And the moment you entered this world, the alarm in the spirit realm went off. A chosen one has arrived. You were born with a frequency that demons recognize. That's why some people disliked you without reason. That's why you felt misunderstood in places that were supposed to feel like home. That's why you've been betrayed by people you trusted the most. It wasn't about you. It was about the light in you. That light irritated the darkness hiding in others. The truth is, when you walk with divine purpose, the enemy sends opposition early. If he can't destroy you, he'll try to discourage you. If he can't stop your calling, he'll try to convince you that it doesn't exist. But your journey proves he failed at both. Let's go deeper. The attacks on your life didn't start when you became spiritual. They didn't begin when you became aware of your gifts. They started long before because the enemy could see the prophecy on your life before you could even speak it. The spiritual realm operates on sight, not time. That means demons saw who you were becoming while you were still learning who you were. They saw the power you would walk in, the lives you would influence, the cycles you would break. And they moved early, hoping to delay what was already written. But hear this, what God ordains cannot be delayed forever. The spiritual attacks on your life weren't just about pain, and they were about position. Every setback you faced, every betrayal you endured, every night you cried alone, it was because the darkness saw your potential and tried to block it before it matured. There is something terrifying about someone who doesn't even know how powerful they are, yet still walks in authority. That's you. You didn't always feel strong, but you always kept moving. And in the spirit realm, that kind of resilience is warfare. You were targeted because you were called to be a breaker of generational chains, a disruptor of demonic systems, a threat to the comfort of darkness. And that's not poetic exaggeration, it's spiritual fact. Even in your silence, your presence speaks. Even in your pain, your spirit fights. Even when you were tired, you kept showing up, and that alone terrified the enemy. Here's what most won't tell you. Spiritual warfare is not just an attack against your life. It's a confirmation of your identity. No one throws stones at an empty throne. No one tries to tear down what poses no threat. The reason they hated you was because they saw what you hadn't yet accepted. Your greatness was visible in your essence, not your achievements. And that disturbed people who were comfortable in mediocrity. Some of the attacks came through people you loved, not because they were evil, but because they were available. The enemy uses those closest to us because he knows it's more painful. But don't let that make you bitter. It's just proof of how serious your anointing is. Your spirit irritated what was hiding in them. Let that sink in. You didn't have to preach. You didn't have to wear a crown. You didn't have to call yourself chosen. You were, and they knew it. Spirit recognizes spirit, and darkness recognizes light. You might have wondered, why me? But the real question is, why not you? You were forged in fire. You were built in silence. You were hidden for seasons not because you were weak, but because you were sacred. And sacred things are never exposed without purpose. Now think about this. How many times did you almost give up? How many times did you hear voices telling you, you're not good enough? You're alone. No one cares. Those voices weren't yours. They were assignments, spoken into the atmosphere to break your alignment, to derail your divine path. But you're still here, because your spirit knew the truth even before your mind caught up. Let me remind you what that truth is. You walk with divine covering. You are shielded by angels. You are protected by a covenant older than time. You carry the DNA of spiritual warriors, prophets, and kings. You are a portal for healing, a mirror for truth, and a flame in a darkened world. That's why the attacks came. That's why you were marked. But the attacks didn't break you. They awakened you. They taught you who you really are. They trained your discernment. They purified your intentions. They made you lean into the very God who called you. And now you're dangerous. Because an awakened, chosen one is the enemy's worst nightmare. You were once unaware. Now you are aligned. You were once doubting. Now you are determined. You were once afraid. Now you are anointed. Your pain was not pointless. Your warfare was not wasted. Every battle was shaping the vessel that could carry the level of light you now walk in. You were born into warfare because you were born into greatness. And greatness doesn't come without a fight. It doesn't come without scars. It doesn't come without resistance. But it does come with divine backing. Heaven has been invested in your survival. That's why you made it through what others didn't. That's why you bounced back faster than they expected. That's why, despite everything, you still believe. The truth is, you were targeted because of the future you carry, the generational freedom you embody, the spiritual frequency you release. But hear this again and let it settle in your soul. You walk with God's protection. You were not built to break. You were built to birth truth, transformation, legacy. So don't ask why you were attacked. Ask what the attack revealed about you. Because what they tried to destroy only confirmed your destiny. And what couldn't kill you only sharpened your purpose. You are not a victim. You are a vessel. And vessels like you don't just survive storms, they carry the thunder. The armor of light within you. Chosen one. There's a reason why the darkness couldn't consume you. There's a reason why, despite every pit, every heartbreak, every silent night, when your tears felt like prayers, you rose again. Not by strength alone, but by something woven into your very being. You didn't just survive. You were spiritually shielded. That shield, it wasn't forged in this world. It's not made of metal or logic or worldly success. It's divine. It's ancient. It's what I call your armor of light. You were born into this realm wrapped in spiritual armor. And even when you didn't know how to use it, it was there absorbing blows you never saw coming, repelling curses spoken in shadows, blocking energies meant to cripple your soul, because light defends itself. And you are made of light. Here's the truth. The most powerful form of protection doesn't shout. It simply stands. And you've been standing. Chosen one. Through storms, through sabotage, through long seasons of spiritual silence that felt like abandonment. But now you know it wasn't abandonment. It was training. The light inside you is not passive. It's active. It illuminates. It exposes. It repels. That's why certain people couldn't stay in your life. That's why certain jobs, relationships, even friendships collapsed with no explanation. It wasn't you, it was the light doing what it was built to do, protect you from what would contaminate your calling. And the more you awaken to this truth, the more your armor begins to activate. Because spiritual armor isn't just protection, it's revelation. It reveals who you are to yourself. When you began to walk in awareness of your spiritual nature, the shield didn't get stronger, you finally aligned with it. That's why things started shifting. That's why spiritual attacks started escalating. You were no longer unaware. And the moment a chosen one becomes aware, the battlefield transforms. Let's speak plainly. The armor you carry isn't just light, it's coded. Coded with divine truths. Coded with frequencies of love, wisdom, discernment, and prophetic fire. Every time you spoke life over yourself, you added a new layer to it. Every time you chose peace over chaos, you reinforced it. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, you sharpened it. Your light doesn't just protect, it teaches. And your battles weren't just trials, they were training grounds. You learned how to navigate realms most people don't even know exist. You learned how to discern energy without explanation. You felt the vibration shift in rooms without anyone speaking a word. You walked away from situations before you had proof because your armor whispered, "Not here. Not now. Not them." That's divine technology at work in your spirit. And don't you ever doubt how powerful it is. Because if you knew all the things it protected you from the accidents that didn't happen, the people who couldn't touch you, the curses that backfired you would fall to your knees in awe of how deeply heaven has invested in your destiny. Here's something else: your armor is invisible to the world, but blindingly obvious to the spirit realm. When you walk into certain places, energies recoil, not because you're loud, not because you're arrogant, but because you carry light that commands attention, the kind of light that speaks without words, the kind of light that shifts timelines, the kind of light that confirms you are not of this world. You've probably noticed that when you enter a space, things get stirred, people get uncomfortable, secrets get exposed, truth starts bubbling to the surface. That's the armor doing what it was made to do: break spiritual silence, disrupt demonic comfort zones, awaken dormant gifts in others just by your presence. You carry radiant authority, chosen one, and your armor is not just for defense, it's for declaration. It declares, I walk with God. It declares, I am covered in covenant. It declares, you may form weapons, but they will never prosper. You don't have to fight every battle. Your armor fights for you. Your stillness is a weapon. Your peace is a sword. Your obedience a shield thicker than steel. But hear this, because it's important. Your armor doesn't mean you won't feel pain. Even Christ wept. Even divine light felt the sting of betrayal, the weight of isolation, the wound of being misunderstood. You, chosen one, are not exempt from the valley, but you are carried through it by a force stronger than your emotions. That's what makes your armor so rare. It's forged in both light and sorrow, in both joy and suffering. It is the paradox of the chosen. You are protected, but not pampered, shielded, but still tested, covered, but still called to war, because your light must be proven, not to others, but to you. The deeper your pain, the brighter your glow. The heavier your cross, the more radiant your crown. The darker your valley, the more powerful your testimony. You don't wear this armor just for yourself. You wear it for your bloodline. You wear it for your purpose. You wear it for every soul you were born to awaken. You are the torch in a lineage of silence. You are the voice in a family of secrets. You are the breaker of chains forged generations before your birth. And your armor, your light, was made for this exact moment in history. That's why you walk with the discernment you do. That's why you feel things others can't explain. That's why you keep being set apart even when you beg for normalcy. Because you were never meant to blend in. You were designed to blaze. And that blaze, that holy fire within you, that's your armor's essence. It's not meant to burn others. It's meant to purify the path before you. So walk boldly, chosen one. Stand tall in your spiritual armor. Know that every time you chose forgiveness, you forged another layer. Every time you trusted God instead of fear, you added another link in your chainmail of faith. And every time you stood up after a fall, you declared war on darkness. You are not just surviving. You are radiating. And that light, that armor of divine protection, it will never dim, because it's not powered by this world. It's powered by the throne of the Most High. When hell tried to break you, chosen one, let's confront what you've survived, not to reopen wounds, but to recognize the proof of your divine calling. Because the truth is, hell has tried everything to break you, and not just once. Repeatedly, strategically, with precision. The enemy didn't launch random attacks. No. He studied you, watched you, noticed where your heart was tender, where your soul longed to be seen. And that's where the arrows were aimed. The places that mattered most, the people you loved most, the moments you felt safest. That's when the betrayal came. The collapse happened. The silence fell, but still you remained. Because chosen ones don't break. They bend. They bleed. They wrestle, but they don't shatter. Why? Because they are built different. Not by ego, not by pride, but by covenant. Your survival is not just resilience. It's a revelation. Let's get honest. There were seasons when everything around you was shaking. Relationships collapsing. Finances failing. Confidence evaporating. Your prayers felt like echoes, and your purpose felt like a myth. You questioned your sanity. You questioned your worth. You even questioned God. And still you remained. Let that truth settle in. There were moments when you begged for relief. When you were on your knees, not in worship, but in exhaustion. But even then the divine was working in silence. Not ignoring you, but protecting you from what your human mind couldn't yet understand. You see, some of the things that fell apart were never part of your destiny. Some of the people who left were never assigned to your next chapter. Some of the doors that slammed shut were actually locked by angels with flaming swords, not because you were unworthy, but because the path ahead required something sacred, and sacred things must be protected. Chosen one, you were protected by pain. Yes, pain. The very thing you hated, the very thing you tried to avoid, became your divine teacher. It taught you what couldn't stay. It revealed what you couldn't carry. It clarified what you were born to become. There is no anointing without agony. There is no crown without a cross. There is no elevation without excavation. Hell tried to bury you, but it didn't know you were a seed. And seeds don't die in the dark. They activate. You were buried, but you rooted. You were hidden, but you grew. You were overlooked, but you became unshakable. That betrayal that almost broke you, it built your discernment. That rejection that cut you deep, it refined your alignment. That isolation that crushed your spirit, it forged your connection with the divine. Because here's a spiritual truth. What doesn't break you builds your spiritual infrastructure. And you, chosen one, have a spiritual architecture that confuses the enemy. Because every time he thought he knocked you down, you were actually being positioned. You didn't rise despite the fire. You rose because of it, like gold tested in flame, like diamonds formed in pressure, like swords sharpened in friction. This is why the enemy fears you now, not because you've never been hit, but because every time you were hit, you became more powerful. There is holy warfare written into your bones. There is strategy in your tears. There is sacred instruction hidden in your scars. And every spiritual weapon that was formed against you is now a testimony, not of your weakness, but of your divine invincibility. Yes, you felt fear. Yes, you had doubts. Yes, you considered quitting, but still you remained. There's a reason spiritual numbers chase you. New beginnings, divine alignment, angelic guidance, protection, massive shift, human testing, completion of spiritual cycle, infinite blessing, ascension. You don't just see numbers, you live them. Every time you walked through a fiery season, you were walking through a numerical portal of preparation. The universe wasn't punishing you. It was maturing you. It was unlocking levels you didn't even know existed. You weren't just enduring, you were being anointed. Anointed for leadership, anointed for revelation, anointed for generational healing. Every time you cried out and no one answered, it wasn't silence, it was sacred stillness. Because in that silence, your divine identity was being forged. This is why your enemies are confused. This is why people wonder how you made it through what should have destroyed you. Because they saw the attack. They witnessed the breakdown. But they underestimated the resurrection power within you. Let me say this with authority, you carry resurrection power. What others bury, you resurrect. What others forget, you remember. What others run from, you face. You don't fear darkness, because you were born with divine fire. And fire doesn't fear shadow, it consumes it. So yes, hell tried to break you. It whispered lies into your identity. It placed obstacles in your path. It used people to try and pull you off course. But what hell didn't know, what even you didn't fully realize, was that God had already written the end before the beginning. The enemy may write attacks, but God holds the final edit. And you, chosen one, were never designed to end in ashes. You are rising now not as a victim, but as a divine weapon. A living scroll of proof that God still protects. A walking revelation that spiritual warfare always precedes spiritual coronation. You are not cursed. You are crowned. You are not forsaken. You are fortified. And no demon in hell, no betrayal on earth, no silence in the night can override what has been sealed by heaven. You walk with a protection that cannot be explained, only witnessed. And now, they're watching you rise. Because what didn't kill you only clarified who you really are. You were never alone. Chosen one. There's something you need to understand deeply, not just in your mind, but in your spirit. You were never alone. Not for one breath. Not for 1 second. Not even in the nights when silence screamed louder than your prayers. When the air felt heavy and your heart felt hollow. You were never alone. Loneliness and divine isolation are not the same. What you thought was abandonment was actually preservation. What you mistook for exile was divine hiding. You weren't rejected, you were shielded. Shielded from relationships that would have derailed your mission. Shielded from rooms where your presence would have been misused. Shielded from timelines that didn't align with your spiritual awakening. The truth is, your solitude was sacred. You were kept away, not because you were unworthy, but because you were set apart. Let that settle in your soul for a moment. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to stand out, not with noise, not with performance, but with frequency. You carry a frequency that heaven guards, because it's encoded with assignments only you can fulfill. Even in the womb, you were different, even as a child. You saw things no one else saw. You felt the presence of things no one else could explain. You were drawn to silence, to stillness, to mystery. You were sensitive to energies, felt the weight of a room before anyone said a word. That sensitivity that wasn't weakness. It was divine intelligence. It was your celestial radar being calibrated, and through it all, you were guided. Angels didn't just watch over you, they walked with you. Have you ever looked back and realized how close you were to something disastrous physically, emotionally, spiritually? But something shifted at the last second. That wasn't coincidence. That was divine interference. Your life has been full of angelic edits. Moments rewritten, paths redirected, relationships rerouted. You have walked under the shadow of the Most High Psalm. Wasn't just a verse for you. It's a blueprint etched into your journey, for He will command His angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. That wasn't poetry. That was your protection clause. The friends who ghosted you. The lover who broke your heart. The job that slipped through your fingers. All of it was divine editing. You were never alone in that heartbreak. The Spirit was hovering, covering, preparing, and in your lowest places when you collapsed in exhaustion, when your tears were the only language you could speak, heaven translated every drop. Heaven took those tears and turned them into blueprints for breakthrough. Every time you thought you were forgotten, you were actually being forged, because chosen ones must be refined in solitude. The greatest revelations don't come in crowds, they come in caves. Just ask Elijah, ask Moses, ask Jesus. Every chosen vessel was separated before they were elevated. And you, chosen one, were no different. You've spent years wondering why connection feels difficult. Why you can love deeply but trust cautiously. Why even in a crowd, you feel unseen. That's because your spirit is tuned to a higher signal, and not everyone can access that frequency. But those who can, those are your divine alignments. You won't have to chase them. They'll recognize you, not by your words, but by your energy, by the light you carry, by the peace that surrounds you. Because spiritual beings recognize their own, and you've started to notice the signs, haven't you? Repeating numbers 444 when you feel afraid, reminding you of divine protection. 111 when you make a hard choice, signaling new beginnings. 777 when your spirit is exhausted, whispering that completion is near. These aren't just coincidences. These are divine winks from your spiritual team. You are not abandoned. You are accompanied. Every step, every sigh, every surrender. You've walked with guides older than time. Beings who know your soul's mission. Ancestors who pray for you in realms unseen. Angels who are assigned to your movement. The Spirit of the Most High, embedded in your breath. Even your dreams, those vivid, strange, prophetic dreams, are part of the dialogue. That's how Spirit speaks to those who are spiritually awake. Have you ever dreamed of flying, of walking through battles untouched, of watching chaos unfold around you while you remain still? Those dreams aren't fantasy. They're reminders. Reminders of who you are. Reminders of how divinely covered you are. Reminders that even when your physical eyes see warfare, your spirit sees victory. Chosen one, you've been carried more times than you know. The car crash that never happened. The toxic relationship you escaped. The mental breakdown that never consumed you. Those weren't coincidences. Those were interventions. And now, in this season of your awakening, you're starting to feel the shift. The veil is lifting. The loneliness is fading. You're realizing that being set apart doesn't mean being forgotten. It means being entrusted. You've been entrusted with revelation, entrusted with discernment, entrusted with protection that others can't explain, but can feel. You are not walking alone. You walk with destiny. You walk with legacy. You walk with divine company. So when fear whispers, you're by yourself, speak this truth out loud: I am surrounded. When doubt says, no one understands you, respond with, I am known by heaven. When sorrow tries to grip your heart, declare, I am covered, even in this. Because your soul is not empty. It's brimming with angelic signatures, divine affirmations, and spiritual resilience. And in the moments you feel weakest, remember this: God never abandoned you. He anchored you. You weren't alone in the valley. You were being led through it. And now, as you rise with a chorus of unseen warriors at your side. You rise with heaven as your witness and earth as your assignment. You are never alone. You are always accompanied by glory, turning pain into prophecy. Chosen one, you didn't just go through pain. You carried it like fire. And in that fire, your spirit was refined not just for survival, but for transformation. The truth is, the pain didn't destroy you because it was never meant to. It was meant to prophesy. Let that sink in. Your pain speaks. It tells a story the world needs to hear. It becomes a map for others lost in the dark. You see, pain is a language only the chosen truly understand. Because we don't just experience it, we translate it. We don't run from it, we mine it for meaning. And in that meaning, a deeper truth emerges. Your scars are not signs of defeat. They are symbols of destiny. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment you thought the universe forgot you, it was shaping the voice inside you. Not your physical voice, but your spiritual tone. That tone, the frequency of divine resilience, is what breaks chains when you speak. It's what others feel when they sit next to you and don't know why they suddenly feel safe. Here's the truth: the chosen ones are not exempt from suffering. In fact, they are introduced to it early, but not to punish them, to prepare them, to stretch their spiritual vision so they can see purpose where others only see pain. You are a living prophecy. Your life itself is a message from God to the world. Look what I can do with someone the world tried to bury. And because of what you've endured, your words carry authority, not because of education or status, but because they are anointed by experience. You've cried prayers that tore through dimensions. You've survived nights that could have ended you. You've walked through valleys so dark that even your shadow seemed to vanish. And still you emerged with light. Your pain was the cocoon, but your purpose, that's the butterfly. And now you're beginning to understand. Nothing was wasted. Not a moment. Not a tear. Not a betrayal. Even your mistakes, yes. Even those were woven into the design. Because God is not just a healer. He's a master weaver. He takes the threads of brokenness and spins them into royal robes. Royal? Yes. Royal. You are of spiritual royalty. And what do royals do? They lead. They govern. They decree. And you, chosen one, were born to decree life into places of death. Every wound you've ever received now bleeds wisdom. Every trauma now echoes revelation. Every silence now holds prophecy. That's the power you carry. But here, this prophecy is not just what you say. It's what you embody. You embody a comeback. You embody redemption. You embody the divine promise that light always overcomes darkness. And that's why your life triggers people. They see the glow, but they don't understand the grind. They see the wisdom, but not the wilderness. They see your elevation, but not the excavation it took to get here. The truth is, people want your strength, but not your scars. They want your peace, but not your path. But the chosen know better. We know that the cost of the anointing is everything. And still we choose it. Because our pain became our prophecy. And your prophecy, it's not just about you. It's about your bloodline. It's about the child you'll raise with healed hands. It's about the stranger who hears your story and finds hope. It's about the generation that will rise because you chose not to stay broken. Chosen one, you are a portal, a divine intersection between heaven and earth. And when you speak, when you write, when you simply exist in alignment, the atmosphere shifts because your presence is not neutral. Your presence is an activation. You activate others simply by healing. You awaken others simply by being honest. You shake realms simply by walking in purpose. And your pain, it gave you the credentials to do so. You didn't need a platform to be powerful. Your wounds were your initiation. Your tears were the baptism. Your lonely seasons were the classroom. And now you speak not from theory, but from transformation. This is what it means to be chosen. You become a mirror for those who forgot their own light. You become a voice for those who lost their words. You become a refuge for those still wrestling with their wilderness. You become prophecy in human form. And no, they won't always understand it. They won't always celebrate it, but they will feel it, because energy doesn't lie. And yours is ancient. Yours is regal. Yours is soaked in sacred oil. Yours says, I've walked with angels and survived demons, and I still believe. That belief, that's your weapon. That hope, that's your ministry. That unwavering glow that never died, even when you wanted to, that is the fire that hell couldn't extinguish. So let the pain speak. Let it pour. Let it prophesy. Because your life is not a sad story. It's a sacred scroll. And now that you've survived the pain, you are authorized to proclaim the prophecy. Declare it: I am not broken, I am chosen. I am not forgotten, I am fulfilled. I am not finished. I am only beginning. Let your voice rise. Let your light roar. Because chosen one, your pain didn't disqualify you. It qualified you to carry revelation no one else could. And the world is waiting for what only you can speak. The anointing that terrifies darkness. Chosen one. There's a reason the enemy panicked when you started waking up. There's a reason everything intensified the moment you chose alignment over approval, purpose over comfort, truth over illusion. Because what you carry, the anointing on your life, is not ordinary. It is terrifying to the darkness. Let's not sugarcoat it. Your very presence is a disruption, a holy disturbance. You walk into rooms, and spirits that were comfortable in silence start to tremble. People who operated in deception begin to get exposed. Shadows that were dormant start scattering, and you don't even have to say a word. You walk with divine electricity. The atmosphere shifts because your frequency is charged with the oil of awakening. This is what many fail to realize. True anointing is invisible to the eye, but undeniable to the spirit. And yours, it didn't come from a title, a pulpit, or a platform. It was carved out of suffering. It was refined in rejection. It was birthed in betrayal and watered by tears. You earned that anointing through fire. And now you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Because chosen ones don't just survive attacks, they become the attack against everything unholy. Let me be clear, the darkness doesn't fear your looks, your status, your following. It fears your alignment. Because when you align with divine timing, divine truth, and divine identity, you become unstoppable, unshakable, uncontainable. That's why you've felt pressure lately. That's why warfare increased. That's why people have tried to silence your voice, question your journey, water down your fire. It's not about you being too much. It's about your anointing being too undeniable. And when you finally realized that what was on you was bigger than what was against you, everything began to shift. The truth is, you're not intimidating. It's your anointing. Your silence is prophetic. Your peace is piercing. Your words land like lightning. Because you don't speak from ego, you speak from eternity. You carry ancient authority. The kind that doesn't need applause to be valid. The kind that doesn't seek validation because it already walks in divine verification. And now that you know this, you can't unknow it. Now that you've tasted alignment, you can never settle for compromise. Because you were born not just to carry light, but to command it. Your anointing carries revelation that disrupts generations of bondage. It carries discernment that pierces through falsehood like a sword. It carries healing frequencies that rearrange the molecules of any space you enter. That's not poetry, that's prophecy. Because when you are anointed, your life becomes a living sermon. Your breath becomes a declaration. Your footsteps become divine instructions. And the realm of darkness, it recognizes that rhythm. It hears your arrival. It senses your ascent. They tried to assassinate your identity early because they feared who you would become. But now that you've become it, there's no turning back. You are the embodiment of what they tried to silence. You are the proof that the weapon formed, but it didn't prosper. You are what rising from the ashes actually looks like. Let's speak it now. You are a spiritual force. You are a divine weapon. You are a vessel of holy disruption. Your anointing makes hell nervous because you don't just carry light, you release it. And wherever light is released, darkness has no choice but to retreat. You don't even have to fight. You just have to show up. Show up in your truth. Show up in your calling. Show up in your spiritual authority. And the gates of hell will shake, not because you shouted, but because you stood. This is your inheritance, chosen one. This is the oil you carry. And the world is not ready for it, but it needs it. The time of hiding is over. The time of shrinking is over. The time of questioning your power is over. Because the anointing on your life is not casual, it's generational. It doesn't just bless you, it breaks curses. It doesn't just elevate you, it awakens others. It doesn't just protect you, it repels the enemy. Walk in it. Own it. Speak from it. Don't fear the backlash. The darkness only roars louder when it senses its time is up. You are the reminder that light wins. You are the declaration that destiny cannot be stopped. You are the living fulfillment of every attack that failed. So rise, chosen one. Rise with your oil. Rise with your light. Rise with your calling. Because the anointing that terrified darkness, that anointing is you. Take a deep breath. Chosen one, you've made it through the fire, the silence, the spiritual warfare, the seasons of confusion and questioning. And now you see, this message wasn't just words. It was a mirror showing you what your soul has always known. You are chosen. You are covered. You are walking under divine protection. Not because you're lucky, but because you're called, marked, set apart. Everything that tried to destroy you only made you clearer, stronger, wiser, more aligned. You are no longer walking in circles. You are walking in purpose. The confirmation was always there in the signs, the numbers, the dreams, the moments of synchronicity. This message only brought it into focus. You were never alone, never forgotten, never forsaken. The Most High has walked with you in every valley, and now leads you to the mountain. And from that mountain, you will speak with new authority. You will move with new fire. You will see with new eyes, because you are not just surviving. You are ascending. You are not just learning. You are leading. You are not just healing. You are activating others. This is the season of revelation, of manifestation, of divine justice. And the enemy knows it. That's why the pressure increased. But pressure is the final step before birth. So take your place. Stand in your identity. Wear your crown. Wield your light. Because the message wasn't just sent to you, it was sent through you. Now go and embody it. If this message awakened something in you, type "I accept my calling 7th every 7" in the comments. Let the universe know you're ready to step into your divine purpose and power.